Hello, my spooky friends. This is John, and welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, mysterious, and creepy in the Midwest and beyond. So, tonight, or I should say today, I have Mary and Josh from the Unknown Project on. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It is a pleasure because I love having married couples on, and I love having paranormal investigators on because it's the best of both worlds. Because obviously you go home with it. Some of my paranormal investigators don't go home with it. Obviously, they go on to their different homes and stuff. But you guys, if you have a good or maybe a bad or maybe even a boring investigation, you're kind of like, right? You drive it home and you're kind of talking about it, right? That went okay or maybe not. So let's get right into it, shall we? And I'll say Mary or Josh, whoever would like to start. What has been your favorite investigation so far?
It has to be Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Ooh, that's a good one.
If it's possible, every time we visit, the experiences and evidence that we capture is greater than the previous trip. We are visiting Waverly Hills Sanatorium here in May. So we're hoping that we might have found a place to give it a run for its money, so to speak.
Nice. So what makes it, I've heard of it and I've heard other paranormal investigators talk about it. What do you think is what makes it like a great place for you guys to investigate every time?
I honestly believe it has a mix of every type of haunting and experience you can have in any other location all rolled into one. And it's the second largest stone building in the world next to the Kremlin. So we feel like it's almost a paranormal tape recorder.
Limestone.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that. Hey, that's something I've never heard of. And you just mentioned limestone. So tell my spooky friends who may not know, why is limestone such a great conductor of paranormal energy?
Well, limestone has a high level of quartz in it as well. And it's basically all the ways that we in today's society record information and save information is in the walls of this building. So I believe it amps up the residual type haunt and energy of all the bad experiences that were happened there over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. That and water. So I did a podcast on the town of Alton, Illinois, and they're right underneath a whole ton of limestone and a rushing, I wouldn't say waterfall, but it's a stream. And it's just like the energy just goes right into that town and just keeps it there. And that's just fascinating to me, right?
Looked back at several places that we've been to, and the most active places for us had running water. So we definitely believe that as well.
Yeah. So Mary, here's a question for you. When you go in these places, and I'm not picking on you, this is all my female investigators. This happens a lot.
Okay.
Do you feel that you are, I don't want to say marked, but a lot of these places, unfortunately, they abused women more than men. Do you feel like when you go into there, you're getting your hair pulled? Does anything happen like that? Push, shove?
Definitely. So it is always me that something happens to. I've had my hair pulled. I've been scratched. And I must say, being a woman as a paranormal investigator, the most intimidating places for me as a woman are prisons.
Yes.
For sure, out of anywhere. And I don't know if it is because I'm a woman for that reason, but definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that is absolutely, I love that. Well, not love that because I know it's bad to happen to you, but it's fascinating to me because that's what happens, right? And again, do you feel that sometimes you've had to leave a place, Mary? You just said, hey, gosh, honey, well, sweetie, whatever. I gotta go. We gotta leave.
So we don't ever leave per se, but whenever it's too much for me, or I get scratched, or I feel like attacked or a certain way, I leave the area, the building, the room, whatever. Like, he usually escorts me out and then he goes back in.
Right. And do you guys, some paranormal investigators come back and with all respect say, hey, we don't appreciate this. You know, if you want us to leave, we will leave, but, you know, please stop, whatever, pulling hair, scratches, whatever it is. Do you guys do that, or what do you guys do?
So I do. I say, please don't do that to me. If you want to communicate, we have several pieces of equipment here for you to communicate with us, but please don't touch me. And then I know when Josh goes back in alone, like,
I usually tell them about themselves and challenge them to do it to me.
You'd rather them do it to you than me.
Yeah. So Josh, is that a thing where you go and you be like, hey man, if you were at a bar and somebody was like hitting on Mary or pushing her, you're gonna stand up and you're like, hey man, knock it off. All right, or there's gonna be trouble. But do you say something like that, or do you say, hey, look, it's me. Come at me. I can take it, or how do you handle that?
I say, come at me.
He does.
You know, I can take it. Give me your best shot. Why are you picking on a female? Why don't you pick on me?
Yeah.
And right. I haven't had any takers as of yet.
Yeah. I love it. It's a weird thing because I talk to some female investigators and they're like, all right, you know, this has to end. Like you're almost scolding a child. You know what I mean? Like, stop it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To that effect. But what's really weird that people don't remember, these were people just like you and me, right? Now in a prison, it's so weird because you have prisons, as you know, you've gone into where there's been some, you know, really badasses, you know what I mean? Some real murders, rapists, on and on and on. But there's been some people in that prison, as we know, wrongly convicted. And that's even worse, right? Because you're like, I am not supposed to be here. Have you ever had a spirit reach out to you kind of like, I'm not supposed to be here kind of attitude and do anything like that?
I mean, we've been to Moundsville and Ohio State Reformatory.
And I love that.
Old Cambria County Jail. And I can't recall one saying I was wrongly convicted.
Interesting.
Even like anywhere we've been, I don't think we've ever had any spirit like, why am I here? Anything like that. No. And I wish we did, to be honest with you.
Right.
It'd be a welcome change.
It would.
We've had a very interactive spirit at Moundsville that was a heck of an artist.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
There was we were down in the sugar shack of Moundsville Penitentiary, and I noticed there was, you know, on every wall, you know, graffiti, as some may call it, but it was you know, it took somebody of some decent skill to, you know, articulate what they did on the wall. And through a spirit box session, I complimented them and I immediately got a thank you.
Yeah. Have either one of you gotten really emotional during one? And Mary, I'm not picking on you, but you know, again, have you ever like just started crying and you're like, what is going on? Why am I, you know? This is really emotional.
I've never experienced that, thankfully, because I've like heard that happen to people where they just like start crying and they don't know why they're crying. I did though lose time before.
Okay, what happened?
That is a whole different thing, and it freaks me out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So losing time meaning you were where? You were in a facility?
So we were at Allegheny Lunatic Asylum when this happened, of course. This was way back when we first started, so I didn't leave his side. Like, I was always with him, okay? Especially at Tala. Like, it's one of the most intimidating places to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't remember this until I was like yelling for him, where are you? I was off on my own. And I don't even remember leaving him or anything.
Yeah, I turned around and she was nowhere to be seen, which stunned me completely.
Yeah, right. Where did you wind up? Do you remember, like, did you wind up in a certain room?
It was near the kitchen area. It was the med building, like I think it's the second floor, and like the kitchen area. That's where I was. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I don't ever want it to happen again.
Absolutely. Because I've heard of people, some of my paranormal investigators have wound up in like where the places where they did the lobotomies or did the electric shock or did, well, basically waterboarding for like they didn't call it back then, right? And they wound up there like laying down on a like an operating table and just laying there. And then the other investigator coming in and be like, what are you doing? And they're like, my God, well, what am I don't know why I'm here. Why don't, like, damn, that's scary.
Yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because that is scary. It's like, what are you doing here? Yeah.
Speaking of scary, what is your scariest, like, event? Or you kind of mentioned, Transylvania and stuff like that. But, like, what's the scariest thing that happened to you separately and together as a couple?
For me, it was her losing time and wandering off. There's not much I can do if she's out on her own. And to turn around and there to be, she's nowhere to be found, scared me to death, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me, honestly, that occurrence, and then it was a different time. We've been at Allegheny numerous times. Like, that's like our place. Like, we always are looking for a reason to go back. I was scratched like on the top of my head right here. Ooh. And that's the first time I was ever scratched. So, when you see on TV, they're like, oh my God, it burns.
Yeah.
It burned so bad. It was then that I realized that they're not dramatizing it. Like, it felt like fire. It was so painful. That scared me.
Wow. Yeah, that scared me too.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask a fun question after a scary question is, since I ask this to married couples all the time, you argue, we all argue, I'm married, you gotta argue. No, honey, put that back. What are you doing? Give me that thing, right? Have you ever argued and caught like an EVP or something of somebody saying like, will you guys shut up? Anything like that?
No, I wish we did that.
Oh, I would have loved that.
That would be great. Like, would you guys just stop?
Yeah, right? Right. Nobody, by the way, Mary and Josh, nobody has said that. And I'm waiting for my next married couple to be like, yep. Oh, that'd be awesome. Because
if it ever happens, we'll send it to you.
Yeah, you'll be the first person to get that evidence.
I love that. Thank you so much. Because you think they would, right? Because again, they're normal people. And if you guys are like, where are the batteries? No, I brought the batteries. What are you talking about? They're in the car. You go get them. I'm not getting them. Right? Yeah. God, shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
Yeah, right. You think it's just normal because, I've been around married couples before. Well, I've told them, obviously they're not ghosts, but I've told them, will you shut up?
Yeah.
God, figure it out, guys. Come on. So, one of the things I want to ask too is, do you guys help residential? Do you ever have people coming to you from like houses? Hey, I know you guys do this. Please help me. There's a spirit in this house and it's whatever.
We've never did that. We were going to. We had one person reach out to us, but her story kept changing and it felt really weird. And I was like, I don't even feel comfortable with it. And Josh agreed.
Yeah, there was, every time we spoke, the story changed a little bit. It made me wonder about the person's sanity more than it did about the spirit world.
Yeah.
So I think we would if it was like a friend, like a close friend or a family member, if they asked us to. But as for like strangers reaching out, no.
Yeah.
We've had the one person inquire from the UK, and a local bar restaurant actually had some experiences and reached out to us about trying to answer. They're not scared of what's there per se, but they want to make sure that, I guess, they're not losing it or they're not seeing, their eyes are playing tricks on them or whatnot. What this person had in the UK was they sent us videos and stills of some very, very interesting things that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Like spirits? What?
I don't know what it is, honestly. And because like they have different beliefs over there. As obviously it's much older over there.
Yes.
they believe in so much more. And I mean, who am I to say it's not real? Because like, it's not our, oh my gosh, what's the word?
It's not in our belief system.
Yeah, it's not in our history, anything like that. But it just, I don't know what it was, but it was very small.
It changed shapes and crawled up the wall and across the ceiling,
yeah.
Which is and either this person was a master with, doctoring up film, or they legitimately had something that we've never seen.
Wow.
But we're not in the UK, so we can't, go look.
Unfortunately, I would love to, but.
Yeah. I've interviewed people from the UK, and they have a real funny way of looking at things. Like, one of the things they said, if your pub is not haunted, it's not, you shouldn't even go to it. Like, that's how they view it. Like, literally everything, the pub down the street, like your local bar, wherever you guys live, and in England and UK, that's haunted. I mean, you just go in and your beer glass moves and everybody's like,
it's normal.
Yeah, it's just weird. And, compared to our country, they have furniture in their homes that are older than the entire country, the United States. Yeah. And they've seen nothing but, like the guy I was talking to, he says, oh, yeah, I go to work and right across where I work is where they used to hang people. Like, that's where they hung people. And he says occasionally, he goes, I haven't felt something, but occasionally during weird events, like a big thunderstorm or something, he says he feels weird. He goes, like, he feels like there's something watching him or looking at him. And right? I just think that's absolutely fascinating with that.
Yeah.
Again, everything's different. Have you guys ever, speaking of staying with residentials again, I know that's really hard, right? Because you don't know if someone has, like you were talking about, the woman's story kept changing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard for people to understand, like, how your place is haunted, right? Do you have maybe something to tell my spooky friends to, like, say, hey guys, this is where you might want to reach out to somebody and get investigated?
Well, I mean, honestly, if you are sure that you didn't do this to yourself and you wake up with some sort of scratches or marks, you might want to, get like a local, or you could get a fairly inexpensive CCTV wireless setup and just have it focus on you when you're asleep or when you're not at home. We've seen some interesting things captured at places where people were not at home.
Yeah, on their home security. Everybody nowadays has like the little cameras.
Ring.
Like at their, exactly. So but if they really feel like they have something in their house, they could always put a digital recorder out, something like that.
Yeah,
and then if they get something, then go look for a group to help them.
Yeah. And two things I can say from my personal standpoint that you guys will probably totally agree with is, number one, do not provoke it. Do not yell. Do not hey, get the F out of here, whatever. Or play with a Ouija board. That is my number one thing. I tell people don't do that, and people will be like, it's just a toy, and I've done it before. And I'm like, sorry, everything I've experienced.
I am totally against them, totally. But then I know some people use them, they compare it to a spirit box. Like, that's their belief of them. And I'm like, and I have heard that spirit box can be a portal if you have it on for so long. So, like, we never have a spirit box on for too long because of that. I just personally won't do a Ouija board. No, not doing it. I'm not trying to open any doors.
Yeah. I don't know why you would do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And again, part of it too is I've spoke to paranormal investigators who have like a medium, who have a therapist on their team and stuff. And I think that's really hard because when they go in to investigate and they see the person has some type of a mental challenge or disability and they've been seeing these things, I don't know, residential I think is a tough gig because
it really is.
It's same business, right? Right. Yeah. Because some people are superstitious. If you told me my business was haunted, I'd be like, this is awesome. But other people would be like, I'm working from home. I am not coming in. Forget you guys. Yeah, and I've had paranormal investigators who've done businesses too, and they've come in, they said, yes, you have a spirit, it's harmless. If you want we know priests and we know some other people who come in here and bless your business and, go from there. But it's harmless. You're probably just going to just have your paper clips missing and someone pushing your chairs around. Okay. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to make it worse, or you just want to get, like I said, someone taking your coffee cup and putting it in the break room instead of on your desk? I mean, like, okay, right? I mean,
just coexist.
Yeah, right. Just coexist. And I think that's a lot too from haunted houses that I've spoke to people who live in them still. They keep telling me, they go, John, it's not like the Amityville Horror. They're not flies and demons. It's just annoying. It's just the cupboard's open at 3 a.m. and they shut and my door creaks open and I can kind of feel a presence. And it's just, and I just laugh at that. I just think it's funny. Like, how can you coexist? But some people do, right?
They do.
Have you guys ever, when you've gone to these places, have you ever brought something back? Or do you have something that no? Nothing like that?
No. So I don't, that is like one fear of mine. So when we leave a place, we always say goodbye. You must stay here. We pray. And then when we get home, like we sage every so often, just in case, because like energy, you can't destroy energy. So we sage every so often, just in case there's any like energy on us from these places, just because there's so much history, so many people like living beyond the dead that go to these places that we go to, and we just don't want that like energy hanging around.
I often thank them for having us. With their permission, we would like to return.
Yep.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's what professionals do, because you don't want anything brought home. And some of my paranormal investigators have. They've brought little boys and girls home with them. They've brought people with them, and they, told them to leave, go back to wherever. Or, if you have someone maybe to a certain degree that can send them back to the light or whatever you want to call it, sure, do that, right?
Yeah, like I've known people that it's happened to, and I'm like, oh, that's like the biggest fear of mine. Like I love investigating it, but I don't want it in our home. Don't.
Yeah, neither do I. No, thank you. So, have you guys ever come back from an investigation where you thought was like really boring, like, man, nothing happened, and then you listen to your EVPs, listen to your recorders, watch your film, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy?
Numerous times. So we always go by, if it was super active, we know we're going to have a ton more that we didn't even know happened. And when it's like a little active, it's like, oh, we do leave kind of depressed. Like really, like nothing happened. And then we'll review like our first time at Hillview. Yes. I think it was the Hillview our first time. Yeah. It was kind of like we had a few experiences. And then he's listening to the digital recorder because he reviews the footage and then I like create everything and post it. But he was listening to it and got a heart monitor. There's no electricity and there's no heart monitors anymore in there. And there's the, when you're in the hospital, the beeping that when you're hooked up.
Yeah.
There was that beeping on the digital recorder.
Intermittently over an 8-hour period.
Yes.
Wow.
And then a few years later, he re-listened to it. I don't even know why.
That's when we started to actually post some of our evidence. Okay. So I was listening to it, and here I completely missed what sounds like a beautiful voice of a woman singing in the background.
Yeah.
It almost sounded angelic. I was so shocked when I heard it that I ran and found her, and I said, please tell me you hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful, and it's like, there was 6 of us that night, right?
Yep.
3 women. None of us were singing. I don't even know the song. It sounded, what song?
It kind of reminded me of Ave Maria.
Sure.
I don't know that song. I was like, well, I wasn't singing that. And the 2 others, like, they don't have a voice like that.
Wow.
Come to find out that there was a large population of Italian immigrants that were staying and living in Hillview Manor at one point or time. And Ave Maria is, as I learned, almost like a hymnal for Italians. And so it could have been, this place is different than any other place that we've been to, where they still have their former residents' belongings stored in the basement. which
Yeah.
it's like walking into a different world. It's quite sad.
It's really sad because the people, they didn't have anybody. So when they passed away, their stuff just got moved to the basement. They had nobody to call. Like, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that really is. Yeah, we have places like this. Where you guys do you mostly investigating?
Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, because we're Pennsylvania based.
Okay, right. Yeah. So you guys got a ton of stuff. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm in Wisconsin, so one of the things too in our area, we had a lot of retirement communities where they were a lunatic asylum. By the way, I always kid my kids about this. In the 1800s, some of these places you could actually commit your kids to these places if they were just bad kids. So like, my son's being a dick, I'm gonna take him in there and commit him, and then everyone forgets about him. That's insane.
It's horrible. We actually have a big poster from Trans-Allegheny of all the admission reasons.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. The things that people were admitted and forgotten about, and they died there alone.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. And in some of these places, like in Iowa and Wisconsin, they have what they call a poor farm. So basically, these people would work on this farm, right?
Yeah.
And then they would make corn or whatever, beets or whatever they're making, and then they would sell this stuff not to them, like literally the place would sell them, give them like a nickel, whatever they gave them. Couldn't really survive it. They were totally basically slaves, and and then they just died just because they were just. Some dad was like, "Oh, I don't like the kind of mood you're in, so you're going to this place." What?
Yeah. Or widowers, a lot of widowers, because was it Hillview a poor farm?
Yes.
Hillview Manor was a poor farm. So if you were a widower or, like you said, bad kid, they would just put you there and you would work for your room. And that's horrible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in this one place in Iowa, it became an old folks' home. And same thing. People forgot about them. They just, come on, Grandpa and Grandma, here you go. See ya. And there's pictures of these rooms still with sheets on the bed and people's clothes in the closets. And it's crazy. Like, you can do that and no one, that's horrible. No wonder it's haunted. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't understand how people could have done that back then, but they did.
Yeah. It's horrible. So, Mary and Josh, I have a great topic for you guys. This is awesome. You probably heard about this. You guys are familiar with Zach Baggins? I'm familiar. Okay. So you're familiar with the Demon House in Gary, Indiana. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, we've heard of it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it today because this is crazy. So what if I told you there was a house, just a regular house in Gary, Indiana, in kind of the poor section of it, but Gary, Indiana is kind of a poor section. If you look at it, oh boy. Anyway, it's terrible. Anyway, this house doesn't look any different. I'll put it up on the social media site, and I've already put some pictures up there if you want to go and check it out, my spooky friends, and you guys can check it out. Nothing different about it, but this house at one time claims to have 20 demons who possess the entire family. And this is the first paranormal experience where priests, doctors, cops, and numerous neighbors saw everything. Okay. Now, the funny thing about this too is if you go to Vegas, Zach Baggins, don't get me started on him. I have a love-hate relationship with him. Okay. I call him Bagel Bites. Anyway, if you go to his museum, they have the staircase from that house in his museum. If you talk to some people, they find it interesting. The people go, I don't know, it's a staircase. Okay. But he destroyed that house. So unfortunately, my spooky friends and both of you cannot go to investigate it. However, the grounds, they're still there. Still, people go there to this day, do satanic rituals, investigate it. People say that ground is basically a gateway to hell. Believe what you want to believe, but when I read this story, this is crazy. Please chime in anytime you guys want to. If maybe you have something similar you've heard of in your area, or you just have a question. So let's just start out here. So the Amons family and Mrs. Amons claims she and her 3 children were possessed by demons inside their Northwest Indiana home when they began renting it in November 2011. So it's fairly recent. Immediately after they arrived, the Amons told the Indy Star that despite cold December temperatures, large black flies swarmed their screened-in porch, and they kept coming back even when the family killed them, according to Amon's mother, Rosa Campbell, who told the India Star reporter Marissa, boy, I can't pronounce his name, Kowalski. Sorry, Marissa. You can reach back out to me, but you got a crazy name. So from there, you think that's strange. Things got really strange. So Campbell and Ammons, there was another person who lived there with them, heard footsteps on the basement stairs late at night. Okay. The basement and kitchen doors creaked and opened unassisted, and they claimed the demons got to their 3 children. So imagine you're in this normal home, you're renting it, you hear all, there's flies everywhere here, there's, all this kind of creaky, stuff going on. And again, there's no explanation. There's nothing. So when I go through this, if you guys ask me like, well, did they worship demons and blah, 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 we'll kind of talk about that. So the family told the Indie Store that the kids' eyes bulged, their voice deepened, and they sported evil smiles while possessed. The 9-year-old boy described what it felt like to be killed and walked up the wall in the presence of a family case manager and hospital nurse. That to me is, and people said they saw this. Now, here's my thing, guys. You didn't have a phone? Nobody had a phone? I've heard arguments back and forth. Well, you're not going to do that, John. If you see your kid just start walking up the walls, you're not going to be like, phone, right?
I honestly don't know. Like, that's scary to me. Like, that whole story, it gives me chills.
Yes. Yeah, it's right. So the 7-year-old clenched his hands around his brother's throat and wouldn't let him go until an adult pried him off. So the 7-year-old just started choking. The other, kids will be kids. Like, my kids used to punch each other. I'd be like, will you guys stop it, you idiots? And he had to separate them, but not choking to the point. And he had, according to them, had inhuman strength for a 7-year-old. Like, normally, it's a 7-year-old. So you're like, yeah, come on. But according to the Amons, the mom, she was like really trying, and she could not get him to let go. Now, it gets worse. The 12-year-old girl floated above the bed while unconscious, the family said. So imagine your kids walking on the walls, strangling each other, floating. Well, they can't. And I know you're saying, get the fuck out of the house. I mean, what are we doing here, right? By the way, you can swear in this podcast.
Okay.
Right? Get out. What are you doing? These are poor people. You can't just get out of the house. They're renting this house, so they can't leave. So let's when people say that, I'm like, gotta know the situation. Like with my house, probably could sell it and I'd be okay. But still, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to try some other things. So this is what happened. This is normally should happen. So the police investigated, right? They came over because people were like, the kids would go to school and they'd have bruises on them and scratches on them. And what's the first thing you think? Unfortunately, the mom, dad, whoever is beating the crap out of the kids. And that is so sad, right? So police came over, and also the Department of Child Services intervened, okay? And what they found was that Amons were guilty of neglect for not sending her children to school on a regular basis. Now, like I said, they started saying the kids would go to school, and the teachers would see this, and they'd be like, are you okay? Do you need me to get help? So eventually the police went over there because the mom was like, I'm not doing this. This is not me. This is the demon, right? Now, you can't go up to the principal of the school, right, and say, hey, my demons in our house. I am not doing this. The principal's going to be like, we're going to take your kids away from you, right?
Exactly.
Right? So, you can't move. You can't go to the principal or whoever and say, I got demons in my house. That's why my kids, this has happened to them, okay? So eventually, they told the Amons to find a job in appropriate housing. Okay, she had a job too, but she had to keep coming home because the baby, a friend or somebody would be like, oh, this house is freaky. Your kids are being really weird. Like, I gotta get. So she eventually lost her job because she kept having to come home. So one of the things, though, finally, she did regain custody of her children 6 months later. So this poor woman, imagine 6 months where you are actually having this happen, all right? And you can't see your kids, and you can't tell them you love them, and you hope they're okay. And hey, guess what? This is still happening. This is not going away. So she's still sleeping in that house, which is scary. So eventually the family did move into a new house with no reports of demons. And the case was closed in February 2013. However, one of the things they wanted to talk about here, and I didn't get really into this. This is kind of you can read this because this is just crazy. When this all came out eventually, so there was some good news, right? She eventually moved and was able to get a job and she moved on and nothing case happened. But when she started talking about, when people said like, what is going on? And they wanted to know more, like, because she's starting to come out more, feel a little more braver. And I tell people, too, who listen to this podcast, and I think you guys will agree with me, if there's something going on, like really like we just talked about a little earlier, please reach out to somebody, paranormal investigator, or your local, maybe priest, a good friend, somebody, right? And talk about it because it's important. Yeah. Even if you think you're a little crazy. Okay. I think there's thousands of stories out there people have not brought up. Because I don't want to be crazy. I don't want to tell them when I was 7 years old, a ghost would come into bed with me of a little girl. And it shook me to this day, right? Now I can't watch a horror movie or I don't like Halloween, whatever it might be. So when they eventually were going through this and trying to figure this out, because everybody just wanted the case closed, right? Like, come on, what's going on? Eventually the reporter was reaching out and saying, like, were there really demons? And, because it's kind of like one of those things where you hear people say, like you were talking about that woman having her story and she kept changing it. Yeah. She didn't, the Amons did not change their story. They kept saying over and over. And like I said, there were doctors and other people to see this neighbor who saw this. And everyone's like, yeah, come on, whatever. So one of the things with the 12-year-old girl, she told her mental health professionals, because thank God they did get therapy and everything, that she was paralyzed during this whole event and that she felt like being choked every night. So imagine going to bed, and feeling that way. Now, I've talked to some sleep paralysis and they tell me, don't call me an expert, but people have had sleep paralysis and they said, well, it sounds like she has sleep paralysis, even though it's terrible, but it's still, something she probably had from all the stress and things like that, but it's a terrible thing. But she kept telling, Amons kept on telling, this is different. It's something supernatural, okay? It's not sleep paralysis. This was not anything. So they actually did have a priest come in. So you're probably asking, why didn't they get a priest? Why didn't they reach out to someone? By the way, to perform an exorcism, guys, if you ever want to do this, hopefully you don't have, it's harder than you think.
Yeah.
So a priest has to come in. They have to look around. They have to do all this reporting. They have to go through the higher ups. It could be months before you have.
Sad. It is sad.
Yeah. So hopefully it never happens. So a priest, though, who did this, Reverend Michael Manjot, performed a blessing at the Amons and her family, and were actually then did a exorcism because it was authorized by the bishop of the Catholic Church Diocese of Gary, Indiana, and it was the first one he did in 21 years of service. So this guy said, I don't do this that often. So if you think I'm doing it, no. This is the first time in like over 20 years I even had to go this. And they performed a major exorcism. So think of the exorcism. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, The Exorcist, or seen something similar. Yeah, right? Scary.
Yeah.
It's still scary to this day. So they had to perform an exorcism on the little girl, okay? And Amons, and they prayed over her, and they made appeals to cast out the demons. They named the demons. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but okay. tormenting the Amons during the ritual after she looked up their identities online. So the demons, when they're possessed, what happens in exorcism, just like in the movie, they'll say their name. So, it's usually bad, like blah, blah, blah. And you'll be like, oh, crap. That's not Fred. It's not like Fred or Bill.
Right.
That's not scary. Like, you're possessed by Bill. You're like, yeah.
Right.
Okay, whatever. So they eventually got the Catholic Church blessing. And this is, a priest has said this, okay? And you're not going to have a priest be like, yeah, I need the money, so I'm going to make this up. He cast out more than he said 20 demons. 20. That's a long night. I don't care where you are. That is a long night. She also said that they also did some major exorcisms on the boys too. They did not give as many demons were there. But, I mean, that's crazy, right, Josh? I mean, that's just, what do you think?
I mean, it sounds to the average person like it could be very far-fetched.
Yeah.
But it is a real thing, at least in my beliefs. I have yet, knock on wood, to come across anything quite like that. But, people, don't be scared to reach out to someone like us, to document it and to back up your stories. And then we can get that evidence in the hands of someone that can do something about it.
Yeah.
Like a bishop or a priest, know. But I do believe it is a real thing, that it's not just made for TV.
Yeah.
I believe it's real too. I just don't believe it's as often as TV makes it up.
Correct. So one of the things I forgot to mention too is Gary Police Captain Charles Austin told the Indy Star in 2014 that he initially thought the Amons were liars just to get rich. You know what I mean? Kind of like an Amityville Horror thing. But when he visited the home and interviewed the witnesses, he came out a believer. Now, there's things you can see on YouTube where Bagel Bites, Zach Baggins, is talking to him. And he said, yeah, I went in there and these kids, he goes, I've seen all forms of abuse in my years. He said, I've seen all liars and everybody trying to get out of, I don't beat my kids and I don't do this. It's demons. It's this. He said, he goes, the little kids would come out and he would talk to them like, is your mom hurting you or whatever? And they'd be like, no. It's the demons. Or they'd be like, get out. Like, you shouldn't be here. You need to leave. And the kids would like throw stuff at him or just scream at him like in a guttural, like, blah, like that. And he'd be like, whoa.
Not normal behavior.
Yeah, he said it's not normal. And he said, okay. So he was convinced. He said, you cannot convince me otherwise. And he's a cop. Cops are not going to say stuff like that, right? Because they don't want their other buddies being like, oh, yeah, there's a haunted house. Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, come on. So in 2014, Zach Baggins bulldozed it in 2016, the house. But before that, he filmed the demolition for the Demon House documentary. If you watch the documentary, it's on Amazon Prime, or I think it's on YouTube. Do not pay. Zach Baggins has enough money to just watch something free. Normally I'm not a pirate guy, but I'm like, come on. He's got enough money.
Agreed.
In that documentary, if you watch it, it's okay. But, you do what you have to do. One of his teammates on there, as cameraman or somebody, he, when he left the house, he got all these tattoos with 666, demons of things on his arms. And when Zach Baggins was talking to him, he was really, adversarial. You don't know. And Zach Baggins said, no, this is a nice guy. We've been working together for years. And he eventually quit and he had all these problems, that guy. It's very weird. It's like, okay. And then in there, you can watch on YouTube, they have a little clip where Zach Baggins is sleeping at the house by himself, of course. And he goes temporarily blind. Something happens to him. I don't know if you guys can fill it in. But he goes temporarily blind. He goes to the hospital, and this is all documented. And he basically has temporary blindness. He can't see for, I don't know how long. And he just said, that's enough. And he bulldozed it. Now, I have to ask you guys this quick question. Do you think he bulldozed it because he believes there's something real? Or do you think he bulldozed it for his own fame? Like so you guys couldn't investigate it. No one else could. You know what I mean? And maybe disagree What do you guys think?
That's a good point because I feel like a lot's traumatized by him specifically.
Yeah.
Just over the years. But if he bulldozed it so nobody else could go to prove that it's something else, why doesn't he do that everywhere he goes? You know what I mean?
Totally good. Yeah. What do you think, Josh?
I think if he's as big of an expert as he makes himself out to be, he also knows that destroying that home doesn't change the situation whatsoever. It's, basically he freed that energy, if anything. And if it's tied to the land, it's still there to this day.
Yeah.
I believe it's with the land. And I hope it never gets
Yeah.
But I would have definitely gone there. It would have been on my list to
go
and check out.
Absolutely.
This would be a solo one for me.
It would have been.
Just like they tore down Bobby Mackey's.
Yes.
That was going to be a solo investigation for me.
Right.
I'd seen, Baggins do his, they made it out that it ruined the one guy's marriage. But then I've seen other teams go in there and said that it's haunted, but it's not anything, to the level that it's being explained as.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out for myself.
Yeah, so did I. So did I, Josh. Because it's a perfect dive bar. In Wisconsin, just like your areas, I'm sure you have a dive bar where you're like, it's okay, you can go there and grab a quick beer or whatever. It's not going to get in a fight or whatever. So this is where it gets a little weird, okay?
Okay.
Where I kind of like, but I guess I do the same thing. So what the Amons and another person, they signed movie deals separate from Baggins on this film in 2014 with Lee Daniels. Said the movie's already out, so you can go on Netflix and see it, by the way. But they say the current project is unclear. That's not true. It is out right now. The film, directed by Lee Daniels, premiered on Netflix on August 30th, 2024, and explores the themes of darkness, possession, and faith of this event. And the movie is called The Deliverance. It is on Netflix right now. It is inspired by the true story of LaToya Amon's family alleged experiences of possession in Gary, Indiana house. Features a cast. This ain't a bad cast, folks. Andrea Day, Glenn Close, and Monique. I don't know who she is. They got a pretty good deal on it. I think it was like over 20 million, something like that. It was a nice little deal. Let's just put it that. Maybe it's more. But it was in the millions that they got. I'm like, I'm like,
it does make you go, That movie is scary. That I watched that the one night by myself because he was asleep, and I jumped a few times and I was afraid to go downstairs by myself after watching it.
So does that change your mind?
Money has a way of changing everything.
It does.
It definitely makes me wonder. I mean, not to take away the credibility of all, the Amons family and the officers and, social workers or whatnot.
Priests.
Things.
Yeah.
But that's something I'd have to see with my own two eyes or hear, some sort of documentation of it, to really back it up for me.
It just definitely makes it more questionable. It does.
Because you guys know the Amityville house, that was all bullshit.
Yep.
That was all everyone getting together and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. So, let me ask you this. Let's do a final decision, okay? I think the demons were possessed to the children for whatever reason, or whatever you want to say. But that's all I have. I can't really say it was real. I just think there was some type of possession. But then why? Why that house? Why those kids? I don't know. What do you guys have? Help me out here.
I think it did happen. I just don't know the true extent of it because there's no way of, investigating it now to find out because nothing's there anymore.
And I definitely agree. The church doesn't go in and just perform an exorcism.
Right, exactly.
Hollywood.
They don't.
No, no. Like I said, it had,
They have to meet criteria.
Yes.
To perform one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So there was something there, but it's probably greatly dramatized for TV, I believe.
Yes, which it always is. Because, everybody wants to, everybody wants to think, because if we were all in it for money, we'd all be millionaires, right? Because we'd all just be like, oh, yeah, I was at Allegheny and pulled my hair, scratched me. Oh, let's make a movie of that. Like, nobody's doing that. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those weird things. So let's I'll put it this way, is a maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a solid maybe for different reasons.
Maybe.
Yep, because there's just a lot of things there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So before we wrap up, really quickly, I promise you guys we're going to play the newlywed game. We're going to ask you some questions. If this marriage dissolves because of me, it's not my fault. It's not my fault, Josh and Mary.
That is so funny.
Okay, so let's do the first thing. First question. If you, Mary, or Josh saw a full body apparition, who would be the first to try to communicate to it?
Josh.
And why? Because he's so brave.
I'm usually not the one that has any sort of interactive experience outside of I seem to be blindfolded doing an Estes session when a lot of action happens close by.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Mary says, did you see that? Did you hear that? No, I'm blindfolded and I have headphones on.
I'm like, crap.
All right, so this goes into my next question. What's your partner's pet peeve on an investigation? Well, what do you guys like? Will you stop that? You always do that.
I'd have to say Mary's is I get too in-depth with, or too elaborate with the gear setup. And she feels as though I waste some time.
Yes.
Is that right, man? Okay.
It's 100% right.
Okay, Josh, you got to get something on Mary here.
How should I say? I think she gets too riled up a little bit about, like time management and, like we're professional about how we conduct ourselves and how we, go through and rule out our evidence. But I think she gets a little too serious sometimes and puts a lot of pressure on herself. And then I get to hear the brunt of it.
I could agree with that because I take everything very seriously.
Yeah. So then this fits truly well into my next question. Who apologizes first after an argument?
Me.
He's right.
I might take a few minutes. She might take a day or two.
Well, Mary, we know the real Mary now.
Well, it's funny.
So here's a couple more really quickly. Which of you would be most likely to survive a zombie apocalypse?
That's easy, Josh.
Mary, you're not even trying?
I believe it'll be her because I'll get killed saving her.
So hold on. So Mary's going to turn into a zombie and bite you. That's what you're saying.
Well, that's definitely possible. I think she might get herself in a bad situation and I'm going to come rushing in and end up taking the fall.
Oh, Mary, come on. So, okay. So this is something I like to ask. I'm not trying to get you guys into trouble again. Like I said.
No, this is fun.
Okay. Where was your first date?
You're going to love this.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You are going to love this. Penhurst Asylum.
Love it. Wait. So, Josh, did you be like, hey, Mary, you're kind of cute. You want to come with me and investigate? Sure, I'll go and investigate.
It wasn't an investigation. It was for the Halloween, like the haunted.
Okay.
But yeah, like that was our first date. We knew each other for many, many years before we ever dated. But that was our first date. Yeah, Penhurst.
And I followed that up with Eastern State Penitentiary the following week.
There's no romantic dinner. Oh, like, hey, hon, let's go out. We'll have some drinks and we'll romantic dinner. No, come on, let's get bitten and scared and scratched.
That's who we are.
That's hilarious, guys. That will go up on when I put this on social media. I will put that up there. That is the first one because most people will be like, we met at work and, I said, you want to go grab some lunch? And, your guys are like, no, what are you talking about? Come on.
Penhurst.
I love it. I love it.
This is awesome.
Okay, last question. Which one of you is the party animal?
I'm retired.
Well, when you guys were younger, let's say, all right, who is the party
You're
animal?
gonna say me.
We both were.
Oh, you're gonna say equal, yeah.
We both had our time.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now we're both the cheapest dates in the area.
You guys just go to the local convenience store. Yeah, let's just get a sub and a Coke. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
A 6-pack will last us a while.
And this is, before we wrap up, I got to ask this question. Mary, I will start with you. Josh, this is nothing against you, so don't take it personal. So if you could do an investigation with anybody, rich, famous, wherever, or anywhere in the world, let's say I'm a billionaire. This is what I say. I'm a billionaire. I say, Mary, I'm going to let you take my private jet. You can take anybody you want with you instead of Josh. No offense, Josh. I'll get to you in a second. Who are you going to take? Where are you going to go and investigate?
Amy Allen. I love her. Have always loved her for many years.
Okay.
And some castle.
England, Scotland, Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland, England, some castle. It's a dream.
Love it. I love it. I'll make that happen when I win the lottery.
Awesome.
Josh, same question. Mary, don't get mad at him.
I'd have to say Dave Schrader, and I would like to investigate the catacombs in Paris with him.
I love that.
Great answer.
I love it.
Yeah. I believe he's one of the few in this field that is, a big fish, so to speak, that does not dramatize a thing.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
I would love that.
You guys have great answers. Mine is very simple. Beyonce and Transylvania, Dracula Castle. My wife already knows I'm in love with Beyonce. Like, if she became free, my wife's out of the picture, and my wife laughs at me, of course. Yeah, sure, Beyonce wants you. Hey, that was me. Yeah. No, I love Transylvania. I've said this many, 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 many times on the podcast. It's absolutely gorgeous, guys. Go check it out. Go Google it. You'll be like, damn, John was right.
Yeah, Josh loves it too. Like, he loves the stories, everything.
Vlad the Impaler's Castle. I mean,
come on. Yeah.
You can't get much better than that.
Yeah. And it's fairly untouched by tourism because, well, Hollywood kind of ruined it. They made it look like it's, raining all the time and foggy and werewolves and you're going to die there. And you're like, no, actually not. It's actually gorgeous. And people are supposed to be super nice. And the Dracula's Castle still is their moneymaker. So thank you guys for going over time. This was amazing. This is so much fun. That's why I love having married couples who are paranormal investigators. But could you tell my spooky friends what you guys got coming up? What are you guys looking to do here?
We got a lot. So Waverly, May 8th. Penhurst.
We have our first private at Penhurst.
I think it's June. I forget the exact date.
In June. Then we're going to follow that up with a Trans-Allegheny.
In September.
And then to end the year, we're going to actually host a public ghost hunt for amateurs in Gettysburg.
But the end of the year one, as of now, because Josh always finds one more place.
Habitually,
we have Fort Mifflin on November 1st.
I love that. Guys, that is really awesome. And like I said, I did a roundtable of married couples of paranormal investigators. I would love to have you guys back on for that because that was so much fun. And I know you guys sound like got things going on, but maybe we can work that out and have you guys on because I think you're really nice because everybody talked to each other and they were like, how do you do this? And how do you guys, it was just really nice to see people connecting and then telling them, hey, if you're down in Florida or if you're in Texas or you're wherever, come on down. We're doing a co-investigation together. And I was thinking, I love that. Bringing people together. So again, thank you so much. By the way, just a quick favor for me and my spooky friends. When you guys go places, anything you want to share with me so I can put it on my social feed and stuff, if you guys got a cool AVP or something, please share with me. I'll put up there because it's awesome just to have people listen to different things. And of course, when this episode comes out, I'll let you guys know, and all the links and everything will be out there that people can check you out and make sure, give you a little love or clicks or whatever you guys want. And especially with that event, whenever that's up, please let me know. I'll reach out to my spooky friends and say, hey, if you're in the area, I do have a lot of listeners in Pennsylvania. So, go take that out. So thanks, guys. Thanks for going over time with me. Yeah, that Hollywood Newlywed Game was fun. I'm glad you guys are still married after it. So, all right, guys, stay spooky. Bye-bye.